You know what's kind of ridiculous about embarrassment? Something can happen for literally 5 seconds, and somehow your brain can keep it alive for 5 years. You can forget someone's birthday, forget what you ate yesterday, forget an entire conversation, but you'll remember the exact moment you said something stupid in front of people. And suddenly, 3 years later, you're in bed and your brain goes, "Hey, remember that?" And you're like, "No, and I would actually appreciate it if you didn't." But it's already happening. You remember what you said, you remember where you were standing, you remember their face, and then comes that horrible feeling, that little physical cringe, and you are thinking, why did I do that? I've had this happen too. There was a moment where I said something that at the time felt like the most embarrassing thing that had ever happened to me. I remember going home and replaying it, not once, not twice, over and over, thinking about what I should have said, what I could have said, how I should have acted, and the weird thing, I was basically having a completely different conversation in my head with people who weren't even there anymore. And eventually I realized something. The embarrassing moment wasn't lasting. My replaying of it was, and once I understood that, I started looking at embarrassment completely differently. So first, why does embarrassment hit so hard? Because embarrassment isn't really just about making a mistake, it's about being seen making a mistake. That's the part that hurts. If you trip when you're completely alone, you might laugh. But if you trip in front of 30 people, suddenly it's historical event. Why? Because your brain cares about how you're being perceived. Humans are social, we want to belong, we want people to like us, we want to avoid being rejected or judged. So when something happens that makes us think, oh no, everyone just saw me mess up, your brain treats that social moment as important, and here's where it gets weird. You experience the moment from inside your own head. You hear your voice, you feel your face get hot, you notice your mistake, you notice your reaction to the mistake, so it feels enormous, but everyone else they experience it from the outside and they have their own stuff going on. Which brings us to something called the spotlight effect. We tend to overestimate how much other people notice our appearance, action, and mistakes. Basically, you feel like there is a giant spotlight on you, but most people aren't watching that closely. And I think this is the most comforting thing about embarrassment. People usually remember your embarrassing moment way less than you do. Think about your life. How many times has someone else embarrassed themselves in front of you? Probably hundreds. Now, name five. Exactly. You don't remember, and that's the crazy part. While you're lying in bed thinking, I cannot believe I said that, the other person might have gone home, watched something, eat dinner, went to sleep, and completely forgotten because they have their own brain to worry about. They're probably replaying their embarrassing moments, not yours. And honestly, that's kind of freeing because it means you're often suffering from an audience that isn't even there. For me, the worst part wasn't even what happened, it was what I did afterward. I kept analyzing it. I started trying to figure out what everyone thought. Did they think I was weird? Did they notice? Why did I say that? What if they tell someone else? And that's where embarrassment becomes overthinking. The original event might last 10 seconds, but then your brain creates another 30 minutes around it, and the more you analyze it, the more important it starts to feel. It's almost like your brain is saying, if we are thinking about this much, it must be important. So the memory gets stronger, not because the event was necessarily huge, but because you keep revisiting it, and eventually you aren't remembering what happened anymore. You are remembering your interpretation of what happened. That's a big difference. And this is where I don't want to give you some fake advice like just don't care what people think, because that's impossible. Of course you care. You're human. I care too. The goal isn't to become someone who never feels embarrassed. The goal is to stop turning embarrassment into a whole identity. So when something embarrassing happens, first let it be embarrassing. Seriously, don't immediately fight the feeling. Don't go, I shouldn't feel this way. Just, yeah, that was embarrassing. And then ask, did I actually hurt anyone? If you did, fix it. Apologize. Take responsibility. Learn from it. But if the answer is no, if you just looked awkward, said something stupid, made a mistake, or embarrassed yourself, then there's probably nothing left to repair. You don't need to punish yourself. The second thing, stop trying to read people's mind. This one changed a lot for me because you don't actually know know what people thought. You might think everyone thought I was stupid. But that's a guess. Maybe someone thought it was funny. Maybe someone didn't notice. Maybe someone noticed and forget 5 minutes later. Maybe they actually related to you. You don't know. So don't turn your assumption into a fact. And when you catch yourself doing that, say, I don't actually know what they thought. That's it. You don't need to replace the negative assumption with, everyone definitely loves me. That's fake too. Just return to reality. You don't know, and that's okay. This is probably the biggest one. Don't spend 20 minutes creating the perfect version of a conversation that already happened. Because your brain loves doing this. You imagine, if I had just said this, if I had walked away, if I had responded differently, and suddenly you're directing a movie that can never happen. You cannot go back, so instead ask, is there anything I can learn from this? Maybe you realize I should have thought before I spoke. Cool, learn it. Maybe I shouldn't have trusted that person. Learn it. Maybe I was nervous and said something weird. Okay, you're allowed to be nervous, take the lesson, leave the punishment. Eventually, I started doing something really simple whenever an embarrassing memory came back. Instead of fighting it, I'd almost laugh at it. Not because it wasn't embarrassing, it was, but because I survived it. And I think that's something we forget. You survived every embarrassing moment you ever had. Every awkward conversation, every stupid thing you said, every time you looked ridiculous, every time you wanted the ground to open up and swallow you, you survived, you're still here, and honestly, some of the things that embarrassed me the most when I was younger, I can laugh about it. Not because the memory changed, I changed, and maybe that's what embarrassment is actually trying to teach us. You are never going to become a person who never looks stupid. Nobody is. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to misunderstand someone. You're going to wear something that you later hate. You're going to wave at someone who wasn't waving at you. You're going to trip. You're going to send a message to the wrong person. You're going to have moments where you think, oh my god, I want to disappear, and then life keeps moving. That's the part we forget. The moment ends. You don't have to keep it alive. So if something embarrassing happened today and you are currently replaying it, here's what I want you to do. Ask yourself, did I hurt someone? If yes, make it right. If no, ask, what can I learn? Take that and then let the rest go, because you don't need to be perfect to be socially acceptable. You don't need to be impressive every second, and you definitely don't need to spend the next 3 years punishing yourself for being human for 5 seconds. And honestly, I think the most confident people are in the people who never embarrass themselves. They are the people who can embarrass themselves and keep going. They don't need to rewrite the moment. They don't need to everyone to forget. They don't need to become a different person because of one awkward experience. They just think, yeah, that happened, and they move on. Because one embarrassing moment is a moment. It's not your identity. And someday the thing you are cringing about tonight might become the story you laugh about years from now. You let yourself be human, say the stupid thing, make the awkward mistake, recover, learn, keep going. Because your life is happening after the embarrassing moment too. Don't spend so much time replaying the 5 seconds that you miss everything that comes next.